All right, welcome to Project Duplicity. This is your host Zachary. Meyer, I guess, couldn't make it in today, so we're gonna have one of our newer hosts, co-host, Christina. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to Project Duplicity. Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, hold on. I'm hearing double. So.
All right, hold on one second. Yeah, I think you might have to go to your settings and change that. Or it shouldn't do double playback. Okay, did you figure it out, or are you still hearing double?
No, what do I do it in the Discord?
All right, hold on. Let me move you from the channel, then add you back in there. All right. Are you hearing double your voice or double my voice?
Both.
And you're probably hearing that because do you have the channel open? Just mute the Discord channel if you have it open.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Is that better?
Okay, yeah, I guess. I just have to close.
Okay. Well, welcome to Project Duplicity. This is sorry about the technical difficulty on that. So Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are interested in the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrial, the unknown things that occur around the universe and our planet.
Well, I think anything is possible. And I don't think that, an extraterrestrial is really that far-fetched.
Okay. All right.
I don't know.
So you're more of
I
would
don't
you
really
say
have
like
any, deep thoughts about it.
you're more in the center? I would assume with it, you're not a believer or a denier, just skeptical about those certain ideas.
I mean, I approach things with skepticism.
Okay. And that's
But I don't totally discount things
okay.
as a, no, that definitely didn't happen. I think definitely happened. People have definitely experienced things.
Yeah.
There's no reason why, most people would just make up these types of things. Obviously, if you weed them out, some of them are probably going to be circumstantial, like they were on drugs or they are just straight up having a weird hallucination moment or they're just fucking lying.
Yeah.
But I also feel like in a lot of cases people saw what they saw.
It's well, and that's what's part of Project Duplicity is always looking at all angles, not just seeing it through the individual's point of view, but also looking at it in an abstract way of like what also could pertain to some of those cases. So, like last week, we discussed the Betty and Barney Hill incident in northern New Hampshire, close to Lincoln, New Hampshire, off of Route 3. And we discussed the star map, and I did a little more research on the star map. So mainly the astronomer that took the star map of Betty's. They reconstructed the whole star map with a 3D model using yarn. So that was one thing. So they did start with the closest stars on the map, and then worked with the yarn to construct the whole map. So today we're going to be discussing about Fire in the Sky, the Travis Walton case. This case is another widely, I would say it's probably the most or second most famous case for alien abduction. This case happened in the mid 1970s. It has evidence. It has a lot of evidence to suggest that this guy did definitely go through something. We'll be looking at all those, the case, the testimony from the people, also looking at government records about this case. This has been made into a book, made into a movie. Do you know anything about this, Chris? About the Fire in the Sky, the Travis Walton experience?
I remember seeing a scene from the movie as a kid, and it freaked me the fuck out, and I never forgot about it. And from that point, most like alien things have like scared me, like super creeped me out. And it wasn't even the alien part of the movie that I saw that scared me. It was his like his PTSD moment that he was having that I saw in the movie. I mean, it was probably like a Hollywood take that was happening that I watched, but still, I never forgot it. And then years and years later, as an adult, I bought the DVD and rewatched it, and that movie is goddamn terrifying.
Well, if I dealt through the similar things that this man claims that he went through, I think I'd be terrorized too. I do recall that movie, watching it around probably like 94. It was a movie that you cannot forget, especially the scenes where he is inside after he's been abducted. But we can get on to the events, and then we'll discuss about, and we'll just look at all the details of this. So this case happened November 5th, 1975. So these men were loggers. So they would cut down the trees. They would pretty much cut down the trees to allow the smaller trees to grow faster within the forest. And so this location that they were working on was in Apache-Sitgreaves National Forest Park. So they had so Travis Walton's boss, Mike Rogers, would have contracts with the National Forest to cut down, to do a lot of logging, to pretty much just thinning out, involving spacing and improving the thick standards of smaller trees to allow them to grow faster. So on that day, it was a crew of 7. They start working through the fields. It becomes probably like around 6:15 when they start packing up, like at night. So around 6:15 at night, they start packing up. It's around 7:30 is when they're fully loaded in the truck, and they start driving through the dirt road to exit the forest. So if you see this is the road map right here that they were taking. This is the X, is the location where they end up seeing a UFO. So, so they start going around the water bars and the road, humping of the dirt road to prevent the road from washing out. So this road is it's used quite frequently for the logging company that they work for. So they continue driving up the road, and then they see these bright lights. They said that it was like if it was like if because it was during hunting season, so they thought that it was like truckers, or not truckers, but campers, and they thought, like, they had their car lights on setting up the camp, so they didn't really pay attention to it. But the lights started going from like a tinted orange to more of a red color, and it started like making this like humming, buzzing sound. They said that it sounded like metallic metal being dragged on a still placed sheet of metal. So it was like metal rubbing against metal and creating vibration. So he said that, like, one of the witnesses, one of the crew members, Alan, he ends up telling him, stop. What the hell is that? What is up near those tree lines? So they end up going a little off the road and getting more towards it. And so they said, like, stop the truck. And then they get out.
They get out. Classic move.
Well, the only one that gets out is Travis, and they tell him to get back in. So he gets in, and this is before they actually see the UFO. This is at the lights, because they stopped the truck abruptly before they were getting, and they were seeing like a glowing pattern that was red. So it started getting brighter, but they were hearing like a humming sound. So they thought that maybe it was, at the time, they were saying, stop the truck. Is that, they were thinking that maybe it could be a fire. They were thinking that what's going on here is loud. Maybe it was just like another logging company that they didn't know about that had a contract within the for the park. So so Travis gets back in the truck. They keep on driving further up, and then they become like they start going away from all the heavy tree area, and then they start. It's a big open field, and they see this aircraft, this UFO. This is a depiction that they said they saw it above the landscape, and they said that it had like this like searchlight, and it was searching all over the ground. And they said that that whatever, like they were like they said that it was like a dazzling sight that they've never seen before. They're all scared, and Travis starts getting more curious, so he ventures out of the truck, and he starts going towards it. Okay. And he said that it was like him and the other witnesses, him and the other 6 witnesses, said it was probably like about 20 to 30 feet in the air.
And the big breaking.
And Alan said, one of the witnesses was like, man, I think that thing is a flying saucer. Yeah, so it would definitely be I would be in awe, and terrified at the same time.
Jelly?
I would not.
Yeah, like a moth. It'd be like a moth.
I would not. First of all, I would not get out of that truck. I think if I saw something that close, 20 feet above the ground, I'd be good. I'd be, yeah. So Mike was the driver at the time. He ends up shutting off the car because they're trying to yell at Travis to get back in the truck. They're like, get back in. They start noticing that the yellow haze from the craft is dimmingly like illuminating the immediate area with a eerie glow. So like it was kind of like a spotlight from what they were describing. And so this spotlight starts tracking Travis. And then Travis, he recalls that like all he was hearing was like this metallic humming. This like a kind of like if it was like metal bouncing off of metal, like humming sound, like really fast. And then so this light shines on him, and everyone in the truck just sees like this like little pulse that just goes right down on him, right? Like kind of like a big heavy vibration that just like collapses on Travis, and it shoots him about 20 feet away. They're yelling at him. None of them get out of the truck. They're all yelling at him, and they're like, everyone in the truck's all like, I think he's dead. I think he's fucking dead. We need to get the fuck out of here. And so Mike is like panicking, and everyone is like, you say, like, let's get out of here. Let's get, because there's still, so remember, this is a double cab pickup truck. So there's 3 seats in the front, 3 seats in the back, and there's one guy that was still in the back seat. Travis was the passenger in the front seat. And so the guy that was in the back, Alan, was like banging it on the hood saying, let's get the fuck out. So they end up peeling out, going away from the crap. They just keep on driving down the dirt road, and right before they hit the 260 intersection, I put up the map just so that you could see. Mike stops the truck, and he's like, we need to go back for Travis. We need to go back for Travis. We can't leave him there. And everyone's like, no, he's dead. He's dead. He's dead. We need to get the hell out of here. And so Mike ends up dropping off all the passengers, and told them, just wait by the road. Wait by the road. I'll be back. So he ends up driving all the way back to where they witnessed the UFO. It's not there. He's searching around for Travis. Okay. And so Travis ends up, at this time, they don't know where Travis is at. But Mike is doing a search. He has the truck up near where they saw the body last. They can see that there's like a bunch of dust like blowing all over the place from the vibration of like where a body impact would be. So they can tell that his body impact from the ground is still there. So Mike gets back in the car, or in the truck, I mean, and he drives all the way back, and he picks all of them up, and he's like, Travis is gone. Travis is not there. That object is gone. So they end up getting back into the truck and they all drive back to the location to do one more sweep of the area to make sure that they are ground, you know what I mean, like they search for about like 2 to 3 hours for them, right? So they end up not being able to find them. They all go back in the car. They go to the local tavern, and they try to communicate. They get a hold of the sheriff's office at this time to do a to tell them what they saw and what they witnessed. So they end up discussing with the sheriff like exactly what they saw in the sky, what happened. The sheriff doesn't believe them. No one in the tavern believes them at all at this time. So the sheriff, when he goes back, he takes everyone's report. Everyone says the exact same thing. So they all say the exact same thing. And so the police officer decides, or not, the sheriff's department opens up the case as a murder case. And then so they end up searching. They end up doing a complete search for all these individuals. Or not, like they do a complete search through all these individuals, the witnesses, through their housing, through their personal belongings. They end up doing searching for missing persons. So it's they're looking at it as a murder case or a missing person, right? Like they were either all on drugs, hallucinating, and end up losing Travis, or they think that they were all in on a murder and they hid the body out there. So they do a complete sweep of the residents of Heber County, or Heber town, and so they do the whole sweep of the national forest, the surrounding areas, the bloodhounds, from what I was reading from the police report, which I will show you guys the police report.
Bloodhound gang.
They end up the only spot that they tracked the Travis's scent was the location of where they were doing the logging, and where they did where he was last seen. So that's as far as they tracked. They found no evidence of like clothing or anything around the surrounding area. And so the search party went on for about 5 days. And then so the people, so these are the names of the individuals that there. So Travis Walton, the guy that was abducted, Michael Rogers, the owner of the logging company, Alan Davis, John Gullett, Kenneth Peterson, Steve Pentis, and Dwayne Smith. Those were all the men that were telling what they saw. So after the 5 days passed, Travis ends up giving them, ends up calling his brother-in-law, and he was actually located at this little arrow at the map is an Exxon phone booth. He ends up calling his brother, and at this point his brother picks up the phone and he thinks this is just a prank, because they were getting pranks, and every witnesses were pretty much getting heckled that they that they saw a UFO, and getting made fun of that immensely.
Yeah, they were getting dragged.
Yeah. No one believed their story. There's still a murder case on all of them. They can't leave. They're stuck there.
I'm gonna have a body.
So
This case.
the search. So we're gonna. So Travis ends up appearing 5 days later, but we're gonna revisit that one portion of it. So the sheriff's department ends up conducting a polygraph test. They polygraphed all the individuals that said that they witnessed it. 5 of the 6 men passed the polygraph test with flying colors. The 6th one didn't pass because he had a previous record, criminal record, and he was afraid that they were going to think that he killed Travis, and so they did the polygraph. Later on, they ended up doing another polygraph with that same individual and ended up passing it. So I will go to, so here's the court order, or here's the polygraph question. So on November 10th, so 5 days later, polygraph examination was administered to John F. Goddick, Dwayne Smith, Kenneth Peterson, Michael Rogers, Jeff, and Alan Dallas. The purpose of the examination was to determine whether or not any of the above listed people were deliberately trying to conceal a crime act, aggravated assault, or homicide in which Travis Walton was the victim. So this is, you can get this from the department. This is a copy from the Arizona Department of Public Safety, from Phoenix, Arizona. So this isn't like just local sheriffs that were involved at this time. It started with local sheriffs and it bumped up to the district's office. So the relevant question asked and the answers given are as following. Question 1, did you cause Travis Walton any serious physical injury last Wednesday afternoon? Question 2, do you know if Travis Walton was physically injured by some other member of your work crew last Wednesday? Question 3, do you know if Travis Walton's body is buried or hidden somewhere in that turkey spring? Question 4, did you tell the truth about actually seeing a UFO last Wednesday, when Travis Walton disappeared? Each of the 6 men answered no to the questions 1, 2, and 3, and they each answered yes to question 4. The test results were conclusive on Gooded, Smith, Peterson, Rogers, and Pierce. The test results on Dallas were inconclusive. Based on the polygraph chart tracing, it is in the opinion of this examiner that all the individuals that he names, except for Dallas, answered truthfully. Okay, these polygraph examinations prove that these 5 men did see some object that they believed to be a UFO, that Travis Walton was not injured or murdered by any of these men on that Wednesday, November 5th of 1975. If an actual UFO did not exist, and the UFO is a non-made hoax, 5 of these men had no prior knowledge of a hoax. No such determination can be made of the 6 men whose test results were inconclusive. The charts obtained with the will be maintained in the polygraph section of the Department of Public Safety. So all of them except for 1 passed the polygraph test. And so what's your thoughts on the case so far before we get to the when Travis appears? Chris, hello?
Yeah, sorry.
What's your opinion of the case so far? No, you're muted.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's no problem. It's your first time. You're still silent,
Um,
or you're breaking up.
mm,
Okay, I can hear you. Well, what's your opinion of the case so far? We can't hear you.
um,
It keeps on cutting out.
I think it's legit. I think that they definitely.
All right, say something again.
Hello.
Okay, now I can hear you. Now repeat what you were just saying. Sorry.
I said I think it's legit. I said I think it's legitimate because I could not think of anything else that would possibly be was gone. Um, because if they just got off work like drinking or anything like that. At least I would hope not. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this is a real thing.
Okay.
And then the polygraph tests. I mean, I know polygraph tests are kind of iffy sometimes, but if multiple people took one and all of their results were consistently the same, then I think that tracks. And I'm still hearing myself.
Okay. We'll figure out that later on. Okay, so this is the 5th day. This is during the day. On the that night, they Travis Walton ends up calling his brother. Hold on one second. Let me get my footnotes. So he ends up awaking on 260 on the highway at night. He ends up kind of like confused. He ends up like looking up in the sky, and he notices like this bright light above him, and it like he's like cold at the time, and he's like drenched wet. He's like in he's just covered in like just pure like he said it was like if he was out in the rain but there was no rain going on. And so his clothes are wet, he's all wet. He's stumbling through the night, and he reaches the like an Exxon Mobil, and he ends up calling his brother-in-law Grant around. He said he thought it was like later in the night, so he thought it was like around maybe midnight or something. So he ends up calling his brother-in-law Grant. He's like it's me, it's Travis, to Grant, and Grant doesn't believe it. He still thinks that it's a hoax. He's still wondering what happened to, he's like, is this a joke? Is this a hoax? What's going on here? And he's about to hang up, but then he hears Travis screaming, and he knew that it wasn't a prank after that. And then so they end up meeting, seeing Travis in a phone booth, bruised up. He was bruised underneath his eye. His his eyes were dilated, and he was very unconscious. Like, not like, it's like if you were had a big heavy concussion and you're waking up from the concussion and you don't know that you're there, but you're there. And so they end up taking him to the local hospital, and the sheriff start questioning, and he's in and out throughout the time that they're questioning him. His coworkers end up being there. They start asking him, what'd you see, what'd you do? And all he is at that time able to recall that he doesn't know how long he's been gone. He thinks that he just got lost after. All he recalls is the bright light and the UFO that they see, and that he just fell asleep. And this is like at the hospital when they're questioning him. And so when he starts going into like, like in a PTSD like manner. He's just very confused, doesn't know what's, gets angry with people, very tempered after that, after they count, after the days that were coming after that, after the event. He ends up being so they end up taking him to like a local psychiatrist, and they he starts remembering the accounts of when he was on the actual aircraft. And so when he was on the aircraft, he started like suggesting that it was hold up, I'm gonna pull up. Yeah, pretty much I would think that that would make sense, that he was probably thinking that people were lying to him, because he really thought that it was that same day, that same night that everything occurred, and that he got lost, might have stumbled into some water, and eventually made it all the way to the Herbert gas station. So he thinks that he's still at that time. That's why his the time that all this occurred.
Okay, I just thought of a theory.
Uh-huh.
So they're in the logging industry, right?
Yes.
So there could have been like a competing person. I'm still hearing myself and it's driving me crazy. So like a competitor might have like been trying to get in on their section or whatever of the forest.
Yeah.
And so maybe they took like a piece of machinery and they weren't really able to make out what it was because it's dark and they're just freaked out and it's unexpected. So, you know what I mean? Do you get what I'm saying? You get where
Yeah,
I'm going
but
with that?
they get so close to this object that they said that it was up at like 20 to 30 feet up in the air above them. And I don't know any logging instrument that would be like that, and where it has a beam of light searching around the ground and ends up pulsing, like doing a vibration pulse.
A crane.
Yeah, but what, like a crane holding like an object with like big glowing lights that has a searchlight? I don't know of anything that could be like that, but I guess that's a possibility.
I grew up in the wood industry, so I know a little bit about.
Well, what type of object would that be then?
Machinery.
Like, if you're saying it's a crane, but what object could be large enough for a crane to hold up and have a spotlight, and that can send a vibration jolting down on a guy to make him pass out?
A crane is gonna have to have a spotlight at the end of it, so you can see what you're doing.
Yeah, but I think that they would have noticed, that type of equipment out there in the first place. Because that's one of the areas that they searched, and there was no crane to be noticed. From the reports that I read, I've never heard that there was a crane around that section. So I guess if they were able to, if it was a hoax, they had a crane out there, and then they end up moving the situation, right? So when Travis starts like talking to psychiatrists and trying to, recall the situation that was that he went through, the test, they end up doing a similar hypnosis on him that they did to Barney and Betty, and he ends up recalling some of the when he got taken by this UFO that he claims. And so he said that when he woke up, that he was like he was laying on his back. He felt badly like burnt all over and even inside from like just great force that like penetrated his body from the light or the object or whatever hit him to make him go unconscious on the ground. And then so he felt that the weak, like his muscles, it didn't seem to come from like his muscles were weak. He said that it didn't feel like it came from hunger, just like if he just overexerted or like just really just seems like he was just really injured and couldn't really like move, like if he was like sick and getting over the sickness and just barely like waking up. So he ends up looking, so he's like laying on a bed and he ends up looking up and he notices these three beings looking at him, and he ends up like one starts coming up near him, and he ends up pushing his arm and pushing him away, and while the other two at his foot or at his feet at the end of the table that he's laying on, when it he said that they were like easily like light, and they fell back easily like when he pushed against like one of them and pushed him off. And then so he ends up being so scared that like he I guess has enough energy that he ends up pulling away from it, gets up off of his feet, and he's looking at the three creatures. He's trying to feel around. He ends up grabbing this like a test tube, like this.
I will go to my grave with this scene in my head forever.
So he
I
ends
will
up
never forget this.
So he ends up going to the gets up off the table, grabs the like a glass cylinder, like an object, starts swinging it at him, right? And they start like kind of going, and he described their face kind of, he said that they were like white, they were like very whitish like creatures, about like 5 feet tall, very skinny, and that their clothing, the way that he describes the clothing was very odd. He says that there was no like any type of stitching. It was like if it like he didn't see any zippers, or it didn't look like any cloth that he's ever seen before. So he's noticing them, and he's like, he hates to look at their eyes, because these beings had, like how he described, they had black eyes, a little nose, a mouth, weren't talking, they just looked at him. And then so he takes the transparent cylinder, and he smashes it against the table, and he starts swinging it at him. And he starts, lunging away, trying to push him away. He notices that there's only one door, and it's a door that they're covering, right? So he ends up, like he said that the room kind of reminded him like of a hospital room, but everything was very, like everything was like metallic, and like had this like the soft lighting like in it, like you would in a surgery room. And so he ends up frantically like swinging the object towards them, that he they end up leaving and exiting the room, and they went down the hallway. And so he sees nothing to his left. He began to walking away from the area that he woke up on, and the little room with the operating table, or I'm assuming that's operating table, how he described it. He dashed past an opening, like a doorway on the left, without looking in, and about 10 feet down the hallway from the door, he exited. He caught a glimpse of a room. So he saw like glimpses of multiple rooms, but ends up he was like too afraid to stop. So he ends up he keeps on like going down like a doorway, and then he ends up seeing like towards the end of the hallway, a room about 16 feet across with a dome ceiling about 10 feet high, equally spaced around, where 3 rectangular outlines resembling closed doors, kind of like a gate. I would from the description. He sees like this empty single chair that faced away from him. So when he approaches this chair, he notices that that everything that ends up everything around him ends up becoming translucent, and he starts seeing everything starts looking like stars. And he notices it's like if he was in it's like if you go to the aquarium and you see just all aquarium all surrounding you, right? So he felt like he was looking like he was in this chair. Once he was in this location of the chair and got closer to it, everything was translucent, and he was able to see the stars all around him. He didn't know what location it was near or anything like that. He just knew that he was not on Earth anymore, that he was in space. He starts thinking about okay, where do I go from here? And then when he looks away from the chair, he notices a 6 foot, he said that he was about 6 foot tall, man, that was very muscular and wearing a helmet, didn't talk to him, and he stared at him. He said that he had this blue suit on with a helmet.
Sounds hot.
Blonde hair and blue saucer eyes, right? So very similar of a size as the little short man that he saw previously. So the man ended up standing in front and walked him out of took him outside of the craft that he was in, and he ends up noticing more crafts all around him. So it's like he was in a mini ship aircraft with multiple in there. And he said that the walls were all lit up, it was lights that would rotate, so it'd go very lit up, and it would just kind of not like a strobe light, but it would be white black, but it's rotating in a circular fashion. And he noticed that it was still translucent, so he was still seeing stars around him. So the man takes him out. 2 other people start approaching, one that had a similar appearance as the first man, and a woman. They take him to another room that was very similar to the first operating room that he was in, and she puts on a plastic face covering over him, and she pressed the face mask down over his mouth and nose, reached up to pull it away, and before he could complete the motion, he became weak, and that's when he ended up passing out. And those are the memories that he ended up recalling from that previous from the occurrence when he was on the ship. And then so that is pretty much the whole story from his occurrence of what occurred of his time on the UFO. The first portion of this story is actually just witness testimony on So if you they made a book about it, and so Travis wrote about his experience on the aircraft and the witnesses and police testimony. Everyone's testimony pretty much created the first portion of the story that we're of the story of this incident that that we've been telling you tonight. And so Christina, what do you think so far? What do you think of his occurrence with the extraterrestrials so far? So 3 men that were described like, I guess, like grays, like what a normal people would consider the grays, and then 3 others that looked human but didn't speak at all. So none of these people spoke. So he had encounters of all the way up to the 4th kind, but he didn't have it like how Betty and Barney had it, where they were communicating. He did say that these like every creature, or like the beings that he saw were he felt like they were like telepathically talking to one another. Oh yeah, he's still alive. He was actually on the Joe Rogan. He was interviewed by Joe Rogan this past week. So yeah, so he's still alive today, and this is
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So he was talking to he had an interview the 21st, I believe, with Joe Rogan. He still is telling the story. He's afraid to go in that forest at night, and he'll go there during the day, but he needs to be with people, and he won't stay there for long. He's like scared shitless to even go there. Now, so this is the thing that gets. So everyone hears the story. They did a couple articles on it. One of them was the Enquirer. Here, I'll show you that one. This is the Enquirer, the National Enquirer, which, the Enquirer, it tells you like, oh, this, Princess Diana was an alien, or you know what I mean, like some made up mumbo jumbo stories. Sometimes some of them are real, but yeah, they were in the Enquirer. They were on the local newspaper.
Real news.
Yeah. So, what do you think so far about his testimony? Christina, what do you think about his testimony?
I believe him. I think a theory still could be, a competitor logging company, playing with him for whatever reason. But I mean, I think his story is legit.
Nothing like raises any questions about it at all, or?
I mean, the whole thing can raise a whole ass red flag. But I mean, I just don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take his word for it.
You're gonna take his word on this one?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so this is where it's gonna start taking a little bit of a turn. Okay. So
he has a whole group of people to back up his claims.
Yeah.
So
the psychiatrist report, they ended up it's kind of like what Barney and Betty, like it, they're poor. Yeah, because like the psychiatrist, because I've read the book, like his testimony, and he has a psychiatrist testimony in it too. And the psychiatrist was pretty much giving off that he was probably beaten by someone else. It was in a concussion, and when he was in the hospital, the concussion was the thing that was so pretty much like, oh, you were in this concussion, you were in the hospital when they found you, and you were mistaking doctors as other people. That was the psychiatrist's total explanation of everything, minus the whole UFO. Everyone believes that they saw something. Now, whether or not was he taken, that's where
Not
they.
a bad take. That's a good take.
That's so. A psychiatrist says that's what it is. That he would, through dramatic pain, either they were on drugs, he stumbled a lot, made it, went missing 5 days. But if you're taking that psychiatrist's word, well, then why didn't bloodhounds in the search party was able to spot him anywhere? And why did the search party, the bloodhounds, lead it only to that one spot of where they were logging and where he was last seen by the other 6 individuals? Now, so this is how this case goes. So after years, this came out in 1975, the story, and so this is where it ends up getting very interesting. So no, the psychiatrist did not take the other men's account into consideration, just the trauma that he was going through. It's kind of like very similar how the psychiatrist with the Betty case said that they went through something dramatic, but they don't think that it was aliens, that it was just people. So this is where this kind of goes. So Philip J. Klass, a UFO researcher, considered Walton's story to be a hoax perpetrated for the financial gain, and discovered many discrepancies in his accounts and his co-workers. He suggests that the polygraph test was poorly administered, and the polygraph countermeasures could happen by holding your breath. So even a UFO eccentric like Philip J. Klass is like this, has UFO magazine. He believes Betty and Barney's story, right? And so another person by the name of Michael Shermer criticizes Walton's claims, saying that the polygraph is not a reliable determiner of truth. And he thinks that Travis Walton was not abducted by aliens. In both cases, the power of deception and self-deception is all we need to understand what really happened in 1975 and after. So he alleges that, and another psychiatrist later on ends up by Susan Clancy argues. So she's a cognitive psychiatrist, and so she says so she believes her other colleague, right, that administered the test, and she suggested that he saw the UFO incident on NBC, which aired 2 weeks before his own claimed abduction, which was the dramatized alien abduction claims of Barney and Betty. So in 1975, 2 weeks before his abduction, that he saw this event, and that he was taking the events from the movies through his concussion, and horror that he had, like that he was going in and out of like being concussed in the hospital, and taking their accounts from the UFO incident about the Barney and Betty Hill incident in 1961, and kind of placing it into his own reality. And so that's what Susan Clancy claims that it is. So you have a UFO, enthusiast that doesn't believe his account.
I can definitely buy that end of it, because even with the Barney and Betty case, um, I had thought maybe they experienced a hate crime, and then the trauma was so bad that it turned into a false memory, and it came out as an alien abduction for whatever reason. So, like, I could see how there's always the possibility that he was attacked by someone or something, and, your brain does weird things when it experiences trauma, and then it makes up its own shit.
Yeah. I think it made, I don't think that, like, so if we go off of Susan Clancy's argument about the alien abduction, she says that they might have seen a UFO, that he might have gotten concussed, and when they drove, the 6 friends drove away. So this is the theory that she came up with. They saw the UFO, so she doesn't dispute that they didn't see the UFO. She believes polygraph test, because she says that it's very unlikely for 6 individuals to lie, to come up with a story and all pass it with all passing colors, except for the one individual that they ended up testing later on, because his lawyers wanted Dallas to retake it, because he ended up being the prime suspect of the murder allegations. So she says it's very impossible for a lie detector that to cheat a lie detector test 6 times is pretty, the percentage is very low for that. So she believes that they did see something in this guy, that he might have gotten struck by the beam of light that made him unconcussed, but went away. So when they drove away out of fear, and when they Travis ended up being in dazed, confused, and just walking and stumbling all over the place, and 5 days later ends up making it to an Exxon Mobil to make a phone call to his brother-in-law, Grant. So she thinks that, she believes part of the story, but thinks that the encounters with the UFO incident are from the UFO incident TV movie that aired 2 weeks before, changed perception of their abduction story. And so he has not changed his story. The 6 men, the 6 other men, still to this day, say that that it's happened, it's truth, So, so about 13 years after the book release, Walton appeared on the Fox game show, The Moment of Truth, and was asked if he in fact was abducted by aliens on November 5th, 1975. And he replied yes. A polygraph test determined he was lying about his testimony. So when he was doing the show, I watched that episode too. Every single question, the UFO, them seeing the UFO, all that stuff came up true. But when he was abducted by aliens, that's the part that said that he was not abducted by aliens. And later on, the show ended up getting canceled because of the producers falsifying the testimonies for ratings. So they were in a lawsuit for that. So maybe the producers were trying to do that, but in the polygraph test on that show showed that he passed every single question except for that last one, which the alien abduction. So that's the big question mark. In my personal opinion, I think that he saw all of them, saw the aircraft. He did go missing for 5 days. they did a search party and couldn't find this guy. Had no traces except for where they were logging, the logging site, and where they saw the aircraft. And that's my personal opinion on the matter. And I think that I think about the aliens that he saw. If he did see them, I believe that he did see.
Was there any like radiation or anything left?
There were scorch marks that were on there that happened from lightning strikes, but it's that's all the traces that they found from it. But this is my theory about the three first aliens that he saw, and then later on seeing beings that looked like humans but weren't talking or communicating. I think if these alien beings are telepathically and they can communicate telepathically, I think that he was scared of them and their appearance, that they end up telepathically changing his perception of them to looking more like human beings. If you get what I'm saying. So I think that telepathically they changed their appearance. I don't think that there were 6 aliens. I think that there was just the 3, and the 3 ended up changing their appearance because he was terrified of them because of him witnessing something that he has not seen before. So they wanted maybe a different appearance so that he feels more at ease, because they ended up leading him back to a similar room, and because of the appearance, so he felt more comfortable. So that's my theory on it. And then we'll watch. This is 40 years later. This is an interview with it. We'll watch this interview.
This is his experience at the site where it all began, the town of Heber in the White Mountains.
Had a sort of a sound like metal sliding on metal. There was this real low throbbing sort of a sound that you could hear and feel in your body at the same time. It's not like anything I've ever heard.
Travis Walton is an unassuming guy with a story that has captivated millions for decades, an abduction by an alien craft. It's November 5th, 1975. Travis, along with his brother-in-law and co-workers, are driving along and spot something in the woods.
This glow that, lit up the surrounding foliage. It just made everything look kind of weird.
Travis and his buddies are heading down a remote road inside the forest when they see some kind of ominous light. A craft is hovering over the tree line. And that's when Travis's curiosity got the best of it.
The closer I got, looking up at it, I was just walking slower because my eyes were just
Imagine
riveted on
the
this thing,
reporter
He
getting
tried to run
abducted
back
on
to the
live
truck.
television.
They're yelling at me, "Get out of there!"
That would be
I
nuts.
stood up, bam! Threw me back through the air 20 feet. And they took me for dead.
It's been 40 years. Travis says the memories remain vivid. He shows us the site where it all happened.
The craft would have been hovering just off to our right, just less than 100 feet away.
Walton claims he woke up inside of an alien craft, lying on a table surrounded by 3 aliens and other human-looking figures.
I was looking into the face of this creature. I just freaked out. That gave me a jolt of adrenaline that gave me the strength to get off the table.
Walton says he tried escaping, blacks out, and wakes up on the side of the road in Heber and runs to the nearest phone.
Once I made that call, I collapsed, and I don't know how long it was. It seemed like almost immediately my brother was lifting me up.
Walton was missing for 5 days, creating a media firestorm. Search parties combed the area. His buddies and brother-in-law tell the story of an alien abduction. Walton and the crews take lie detector tests and pass them. And ever since then, Walton has become one of the most well-known abductees in the U.S. He's faced years of praise and years of backlash by detractors. But he keeps telling his story, hoping people come to the conclusion to the age-old question, Are we alone?
The knowledge has reached the tipping point. It's the debunkers and the skeptics who are the kooks.
Yeah, so that's his testimony. That was the interview that he had years back, like 13 years after the release of his book. Yeah, that's the Travis, the Fire in the Sky, the Travis Walton experience. It's one of the most well-known UFO abductions, next to Barney and Betty's abduction. You can take it as face value. We looked at all the different angles that what this case can pertain to, whether he saw the object, didn't see him, or, you know, just every little detail is definitely different. And so that is the case. Remember, you could always call in, give us your personal opinion.
I know the location is at like a Native American reservation, so I'm almost, there's probably nothing to this at all, but I'm wondering like if the Betty and Barney one was near anything like that. I mean, this entire country is literally Native American land, obviously, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, like if it was like a secret ritual place, or like
yeah,
what's
something
because some
like that, something spiritual.
So
to
this
it.
is the Apache floor, so I don't know if they had any beliefs of like star beings or the ant people that they said that came from other worlds. So you're kind of going off of the theory of ancient astronaut theorists that like they came here in the past, taught early civilization or early, you know, human beings about advancing their civilization and their well-being. And
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
yes. So you know, maybe that has something to do with it. But if there's anyone that wants to give their testimony, they can always feel free. Just click on the Discord channel, go to one of the waiting rooms, and you know, let us know what you personally think about this particular case. So that's what I have about it. I told you guys every single point of view that could happen, from, you know, from it being a hoax, taken as at face value, also what psychiatrists thought what occurred. We looked at police reports, like a polygraph report of the questions that they asked the individuals. And so, Christina, what do you like? What's your overall theory on this? Christina?
My theory is that. Hello?
Yes. So what do you like? So after we discussed all the, looked at all the evidence pertaining to this one particular case, what's your conclusion overall? Everything, like looking at like what the hoax, like was it a hoax? Was it a traumatic experience that he ended up taking scenes from a UFO incident that was aired 2 weeks before and confused it with him being at the hospital from trauma? What's your conclusion about it? About the Travis Walton case?
Well, we'll truly never know. Only he knows. But no matter what, it was a traumatic experience for him, and I have to take it as that and believe his story and what he says.
All right. Well, think that's all we have for today. Next week we'll be discussing Project Blue Book. Thank you for everyone that was able to listen in. Too bad we didn't have any callers this week, but hopefully we start getting more callers and people that want to discuss their take on the events that we're talking about. So Project Blue Book is going to be next week's. What? Project Blue Book is going to be discussed next week. It's a government. It was set up by the government to investigate UFOs. So we're going to be discussing what Project Blue Book contains and what is occurs, or like what cases that they looked into that was very that wasn't explainable through the government's eyes. And so that's what we're going to be discussing next week. I appreciate everyone that was able to tune in tonight, and everyone have a good day.